What if an unseen figure could disrupt lives, instill fear, and vanish without a trace for nearly 2 decades? Cloaked in shadows, the Unabomber became synonymous with terror, a faceless mastermind who evaded capture while striking at the heart of modern society. Seemingly random packages, plain and unassuming, arrived at doorsteps and offices, only to unleash devastation when opened. Each blast deepened the mystery. Who was behind it? What fueled this campaign of terror? And how did they remain invisible for so long? Unseen terror. A nation held captive by fear. This is Derrick Investigates, and I'm Derrick. Tonight, we unravel the mystery of the Unabomber, a case that mystified the nation for nearly 2 decades. Seemingly random attacks, each more perplexing than the last. Victims chosen without warning. A faceless assailant striking from the shadows. Who was the Unabomber? What fueled his war against society? Stay with us as we dissect the cryptic clues, decode the mind behind the terror, and uncover the relentless manhunt that ended it all. If stories of unsolved mysteries and the human mind intrigue you, like this video and subscribe. Your support helps us shine a light on the cases that refuse to fade. To understand how it all began, we must go back to when ordinary life was suddenly overshadowed by an unseen terror. The story of the Unabomber begins in an era marked by innovation, ambition, and a relentless march toward technological progress, the late 1970s. Amid the hum of advancements and optimism, a shadow loomed, a figure who believed that technology, rather than heralding a brighter future, was a harbinger of destruction. For nearly 2 decades, this figure would disrupt the lives of ordinary citizens and prominent figures alike, creating a climate of fear that spanned the entire United States. Known to investigators only by the cryptic alias Unabomber, this person would evade capture for 17 years, leaving in their wake a chilling legacy of destruction. The name Unabomber wasn't chosen arbitrarily. It originated from the FBI's case designation Unabomb, shorthand for University and Airline Bomber. The crimes began in 1978, and the first target was Northwestern University in Illinois, a prestigious institution known for its research and academic excellence. On May 25, 1978, a small, seemingly innocuous package was discovered in a parking lot on campus. It was addressed to a university professor, but it wasn't mailed through the postal system. The package seemed misplaced, leading a campus police officer, Terry Marker, to investigate. When he opened it, a sudden blast erupted, small but potent enough to cause injuries. This marked the beginning of a reign of terror that would escalate in scale and complexity. As investigators scrambled to determine the source, another bombing took place almost a year later, on November 15, 1979, targeting American Airlines Flight 444. This time, the stakes were higher. The device, hidden in the cargo hold of the flight bound for Washington, D.C., malfunctioned, failing to fully detonate but still releasing smoke and causing panic. The FBI was now certain they were dealing with a highly intelligent and methodical individual with a dangerous ideology. This was just the start of a campaign that would touch universities, airlines, and individuals across the nation. Anyone the Unabomber deemed part of the industrial system he so vehemently opposed. But who was this person? And what drove them to unleash calculated chaos? The attacks were never random, though they often appeared that way to the public. Each bomb was a meticulously crafted piece of machinery, assembled with an engineer's precision and an artisan's care. Investigators would later discover that these devices bore distinctive hallmarks: wooden casings, handwritten notes, and cryptic symbols that hinted at the sender's mindset, but revealed little about their identity. What strikes me about this case is the paradox in the bomber's methods. The craftsmanship suggests a meticulous mind, someone who valued precision and control, yet the randomness of the targets, at least at first glance, gave the illusion of chaos. That kind of contradiction isn't accidental, it's calculated. The first few years of the Unabomber's activities left authorities baffled. The choice of targets seemed scattered: university professors, airline executives, and even computer store owners. Yet, there was an underlying pattern: a war against the modern world, technology, and those who propagated it. One such incident took place on June 10, 1980, when Percy Wood, then the president of United Airlines, received a package in the mail. Inside was a book titled Ice Brothers. As he examined the book, it exploded in his hands. Though Percy survived, the attack left him severely injured and further deepened the mystery surrounding the bomber's motives. By now, the FBI and ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms, were deeply involved, forming a joint task force to track this elusive figure. The public was warned to be cautious of suspicious packages, and fear rippled through communities across the country. Each bombing brought with it a sense of foreboding. The devices were becoming increasingly sophisticated, their delivery methods more unpredictable. Yet, there was no clear motive, only destruction. I've always believed that when a criminal operates with such precision, the key isn't just in what they do, but in what they avoid. The Unabomber left few traces, no DNA, no fingerprints. That level of discipline is rare, and it tells you something. This wasn't impulse-driven. This was someone who had spent years preparing, refining, perfecting. What fueled this person's campaign against society? And how could someone so meticulous remain invisible for so long? Adding to the enigma were the letters sent to major newspapers, cryptic and filled with ideology. These communications provided a glimpse into the mind of the bomber, but only deepened the questions surrounding their identity. The Unabomber claimed to be fighting against a society corrupted by technology, progress, and consumerism, but the cost of their message was measured in fear, injury, and death. As the years passed, the bomber's reign of terror grew more calculated. The FBI, overwhelmed by the lack of physical evidence and the sheer complexity of the devices, coined the case one of the most challenging in its history. What made it worse was the constant taunting, letters that hinted at more destruction, threats that felt all too real. Reading through these case files, one thing becomes clear. This wasn't just about causing harm, it was about control. Every letter, every package was designed to keep law enforcement one step behind, forcing them to react rather than anticipate. And when an offender dictates the pace of an investigation, they become even harder to catch. Yet one burning question lingered. How could someone with such a high level of expertise in engineering and psychology evade one of the largest manhunts in US history? The stage was set for an investigation unlike any other. A battle of wits between a shadowy figure and a determined force of law enforcement. The Unabomber had proven they could strike at will, but their ultimate goal remained shrouded in mystery. And as investigators would soon find, the truth behind the identity of this elusive figure was stranger than anyone could have imagined. As the years stretched on, the Unabomber's case became a labyrinthine puzzle for the FBI. Early investigations, though earnest, hit one dead end after another. The bomber's precise methods and cryptic clues left investigators grappling with questions that only deepened the mystery. Law enforcement was caught in a web of uncertainty. Bomb components, carefully assembled with rudimentary materials like wood, metal, and nails, bore no fingerprints. The devices themselves were built from materials so common, they provided little insight into the bomber's identity. Each bomb, while intricate and deadly, seemed to tell a fragmented story, one without a clear beginning or end. In my line of work, I've learned that the most dangerous criminals are the ones who adapt. The Unabomber didn't just build bombs, he built puzzles. Every component, every material, was carefully chosen to blend into the ordinary, making him nearly invisible to forensic science. That level of precision isn't luck. It's the mark of someone who understands how investigations work and how to stay one step ahead. Theories swirled among agents. Some believed the perpetrator was a disgruntled academic, lashing out against the world of higher education. Others posited a former employee of an airline, consumed by revenge. There were even whispers of a group effort, though nothing could be proven. Each clue seemed to raise more questions than answers. Investigators were not the only ones struggling. Imagine the victims and their families, living under the weight of fear and confusion. In the wake of each explosion, communities were left shattered. Ordinary people, living ordinary lives, suddenly found themselves in the crosshairs of an unseen assailant. Through all this, one constant loomed: the Unabomber's eerie silence after each attack. The absence of demands or communication added to the suspense. What did he want? And why was he so meticulous in crafting terror yet seemingly indifferent to public recognition? I've always believed that the absence of communication in a case like this isn't an oversight. It's intentional. Silence can be its own kind of power, a way to keep investigators and the public in a constant state of unease. But eventually, every criminal has to break that silence, even if they think it's on their own terms. At the height of the investigation, a breakthrough finally seemed within reach. A detailed manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future, was sent to major publications, including the New York Times and the Washington Post, in 1995. This 35,000-word essay outlined the Unabomber's ideology, a scathing critique of industrialization and technology, which he claimed were eroding human freedom and autonomy. This manifesto provided insight into his mind but still didn't reveal his identity. Yet, it was clear the Unabomber wanted his voice heard. If his manifesto was published, he promised to halt his attacks. For the first time, law enforcement saw an opportunity to engage directly with the mysterious figure. Could this manifesto hold the key to unraveling the truth? Or would it be another false lead in a seemingly endless pursuit? The FBI's task force, codenamed Unabomber, grew into one of the largest in its history. By 1995, over 150 agents worked tirelessly to track down the elusive criminal. They followed every lead, combed through countless records, and analyzed fragments of evidence from bomb sites. But the biggest break in the case would come not from a database or an advanced forensic tool. It came from the bomber himself. When the Unabomber's manifesto was published, it sparked nationwide debate. Some dismissed it as the ramblings of a delusional mind, while others were struck by its articulate though extreme reasoning. Among the many who read the manifesto were Ted Kaczynski and his wife, Linda Patrick. David, a mild-mannered social worker, noticed something chillingly familiar in the manifesto's tone and phrasing. It reminded him of letters he had received from his estranged brother, Ted Kaczynski. A former mathematics prodigy and recluse, Ted had abandoned his academic career in the late 1960s to live in isolation in a remote cabin in Montana. Linda urged David to report his suspicions to the FBI, a decision that weighed heavily on his conscience. How could he betray his own brother? But as Linda reminded him, if Ted was indeed the Unabomber, turning him in could save lives. The FBI, initially skeptical, reviewed the material David provided. Linguistic experts meticulously analyzed the manifesto alongside Ted's earlier writings. The similarities were undeniable. This wasn't just a potential lead, it was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. In my line of work, it's no secret that language is as distinctive as a fingerprint. Patterns of thought, choice of words, even the rhythm of a sentence. These are the breadcrumbs criminals unknowingly leave behind. And in this case, it was the key that unlocked a 17-year mystery. On April 3, 1996, the net finally closed in. FBI agents raided Ted Kaczynski's cabin in Lincoln, Montana. Inside, they found a chilling array of evidence-handwritten journals detailing bomb-making techniques, drafts of the manifesto, and bomb components ready for assembly. The recluse who had lived off the grid for decades, avoiding modern conveniences, was unmasked as one of the most wanted men in America. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was arrested without incident. His capture marked the end of a 17-year-long manhunt and brought closure to a case that had gripped the nation. The breakthrough the FBI had desperately awaited came at last, not through more bomb fragments or meticulous investigation, but from an unexpected source: the careful, methodical efforts of a concerned family member. Ted Kaczynski's decision to speak up about his brother's behavior proved to be the turning point in the case. By April 1996, Ted Kaczynski's arrest was an undeniable, powerful moment. The Unabomber had been caught. In cases like this, the final piece of the puzzle is rarely found in a laboratory or a crime scene. It's found in human behavior. Patterns of obsession, isolation, and ideology leave trails just as clear as physical evidence, if you know where to look. The FBI, after years of combing through endless files, reports, and evidence, finally had the man responsible for the bombings in their custody. The strange, cryptic letters and meticulously crafted bombs all pointed to one person, Ted Kaczynski. At the time of his arrest, authorities discovered the full extent of Kaczynski's plans. Hidden in his remote cabin were notebooks filled with bomb-making instructions, letters to the media, and drafts of the infamous manifesto that had baffled investigators for so long. This was the culmination of years of twisted planning, a series of crimes that had not only terrorized the nation, but also symbolized the escalating threat of domestic terrorism in an increasingly technological world. The arrest was an undeniable success for the FBI and their task force. Ted Kaczynski's capture marked the resolution of a case that had haunted investigators for nearly 2 decades. Yet despite the arrest, the emotional fallout for the victims' families and the wider public remained raw. The mystery was no longer about who the Unabomber was. It was about understanding the mind of a man who would go to such extreme lengths in the name of his beliefs. The Unabomber's terror extended beyond his victims, instilling nationwide fear of unattended packages. Thomas Mosser, Gilbert Murray, and John Hauser were more than names on a report. They were fathers, sons, and colleagues taken by a faceless assailant. As the case dragged on, victims' families found strength in each other, organizing vigils and demanding justice. After Kaczynski's arrest, they became advocates for safer public spaces and awareness of radical ideologies. But even with the Unabomber behind bars, the scars of his actions remained. If there's one thing history has shown us, it's that criminals may act alone, but their actions create ripples that affect countless lives. Justice isn't just about catching the perpetrator, it's about acknowledging the damage left behind and ensuring history doesn't repeat itself. Thank you for watching and being part of our community here at Derrick Investigates. We appreciate your continued support in our mission to uncover and understand the most perplexing stories of our time. The case of Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, serves as a haunting reminder of the fragility of trust and the dangers that can emerge from radical beliefs. At Derrick Investigates, we aim to shed light on these impactful stories, giving voice to the victims and shedding light on the truth behind each case. If this case moved you, show your support by liking this video, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing with the bell icon on. Together, we can keep these voices alive and shine a light on the forgotten. Until next time, keep your mind open, your questions sharp, and your curiosity alive. I'm Derrick, and I'll be back soon with another investigation.